Letting go of distractions. That is our focus for the day. As we begin, and I'll tell you why in just a couple of minutes, if you happen to have a cell phone with you, take it out, put it on your lap, and I want you to be ready to participate in an activity that we have going on this morning as we think about what it means to let go. As you know, occasionally we have technical difficulties around here. That's on purpose. Gotcha. Okay, glad we're in the room. Okay, here we go. So, these are what might be referred to as weapons of mass distraction. If you have a cell phone, you might recognize some of these weapons of mass distraction that call for our attention, that perhaps try to distract us from the main thing, that might invite us to very intentional distraction rather than dealing with things around us that might actually be more important. So hopefully if you have, by the way, how many of you have a cell phone by show of hands? Okay, not bad, not bad. Do you know, according to Pew Research, how many adults, what percentage of adults in the United States of America have cell phones of any kind? Do you know what it might be? Any guesses? 95%. 98%. 99%. 96%. Of adults in the United States of America have cell phones. So if you are in that 4%, you are not only an outlier, but you are so far behind the curve that you're actually ahead of the curve. 96% of us have a cell phone of one kind or another. And that's an observation. Don't get defensive. It's not a judgment, it's an observation. I am among the 96% and proud to be among the 96%. Tonight at 5:30, a group of 7th and 8th grade students are going to show up for confirmation. They will come to a desk where they will be warmly welcomed, and guess what they're asked to do before they go in for their confirmation experience? Put your cell phone in the basket. You should have seen. This is being taped, right, Jeff? Oh, well. You should have seen the self-righteous response of the adults in the room. They were like, yeah, good thing. They have to get rid of their cell phones. You know, as if middle school students are somehow inferior or incapable of doing that. They do it and they survive and they don't seem any worse for the wear. There is a study out of Harvard University, the medical school, that I want to share just a few pieces of with you because I think what was done in this study has everything to do with how it is and why it is that we are distracted by these things. Mine happens to be an iPhone. There is this chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical produced by our brains that plays a starring role in motivating behavior. It does. It gets released when we take a bite of delicious food, when we have sex, after we exercise, and when we have successful social interactions, like these. So here's my cell phone number. I want you to get out your cell phone and program my number and then I'm going to ask you to send me a text. All right? So if you have a cell phone, pick it up. There's my number. You can go ahead when you're ready and send me a text now. Oh, it feels so good. I feel so important right now. Oh, keep them coming. Oh, they're still coming. Oh, I love all these vibrates, Barry. It makes me feel so affirmed. Hope I like your. I'm not going to look at those until after. Oh, here comes another one. Well, somebody's calling me. Should I answer? Why not? Oh, they hung up. Oh, more texts coming through. 2 more from Barry. Barry's sucking up. The intern's trying to get more attention. Okay. Think about it, though. It is the dopamine. There's more dopamine. It feels so good to be affirmed and maybe to be distracted from your real life, from what's actually happening around you. Oh, they're still coming. I have over 100 this morning. Wow, do I feel good about myself. I had a text this morning at 5:30. Felt so good to get a text that early in the day and to feel affirmed already. And then I responded, which made me feel even better. We can get so distracted from the main thing in our, there's more, wow, I got 12 from this 419. Who is this? 4193, I'm not going to ask you who you are, but dang, that's a lot of text messages. Have you lost your phone? How many of you have lost your cell phone before? Yeah? There's some research done on what happens to us, and I'm right in the mix with you, and I have a very dear friend who loses her cell phone a lot. Best friend in the world, actually. Uh-oh, about 73% of people claim to experience this unique flavor of anxiety when we lose our phone. An average 2 to 4 hours per day we spend tapping, typing, and swiping on our devices. This next number is incredible. 2,600 daily touches. 2,600 daily touches on this piece, which can be life-giving and can also be the source of incredible distraction from the world around us. I have my phone usually with me 24/7. So I am right in there with it, but there can be times where it can be a distraction. Do you think you could let go of your phone for 2.5 hours someday this week? Give it a try. It might get rid of some kind of distraction. Most of us have become so intimately entwined with our digital lives that we sometimes feel our phones vibrating in our pockets when they aren't even there. Ever have that experience before? The phantom vibrate. The phantom vibrate. Barry, you ever have that experience? Uh-huh. Okay. Thanks for sharing. So there it is. We are so distracted by our phones that even when they are not there, there is a there. Though humans have evolved to be social, the social structures in which we thrive tend to contain about 150 individuals. This number is orders of magnitude smaller than the 2 billion potential connections we carry around in our pockets today. Now, that in and of itself is just distracting and mind-bending to think about. We have potentially 2 billion. No wonder so much of our energy is here when a lot of life might be happening outside of that. Some happens within it, but a lot of it happens outside. A little bit of Instagram. If you're on Instagram, you might be interested to know this. If you're not, this all has to do with how we can get distracted in the extreme by the things that we want to use to help us communicate. And it's all value neutral. There's good and there's bad. Instagram, well, I thought this was fascinating. Will sometimes withhold likes on your photos to deliver them in larger bursts. If you're on Instagram, you might know about this. So when you make your post, you may be disappointed to find fewer responses than you expected, only to receive them in a larger bunch later on. It was like all of these texts that came through, one after another. Dopamine. I mean, it just What else is there than 100 texts that you somehow think affirm you when you're manipulating a congregation to do it in the first place? Your dopamine centers have been primed to respond robustly to the sudden influx of social appraisal, social approval. So it comes in and it means so much to us. I think that many of us choose to live a distracted life. I think many of us like to live a distracted life. Because if we stay distracted, if we stay busy, if we are doing this or that, then we don't really think about ourselves, don't need to look at who we are. And so I'm convinced that being distracted has become a badge of honor. Busier, the more distracted we are, the better we are. People tell us, wow, you're so busy. How do you stay focused? Well, maybe we don't. Maybe we like to be distracted because it keeps us from having to look within ourselves. That number mean anything to anybody? I-O, there it is. You weren't focused before, guys. You are now, right? So, multitasking is an experience that many of us have. I think in particular about parents. And not to be sexist, guys, but I think in particular about moms. Not only moms, but lots of times moms. And at work, we have to kind of multitask to survive. And I wonder if we are able to, maybe even for a second, once in a while, put one of those things down to have just a glimpse and a moment of peace, and a glimpse and a moment of not being so distracted. Multitasking can be a heck of a burden and a necessity to make it from one event to the next, but I wonder if maybe once in a while we might be able to find a way to put down a couple of those things. You've seen the drug commercial, right, about Denial, Ohio, about drugs. I think we live in Denial, Ohio when it comes to being able to say that I'm not distracted. Not me. I'm focused clearly all the time. Mono-focused. I know exactly what I need to do exactly what I have to do, and I think that's denial. So how can we move from that place to being able to see life and important things more clearly? What if we all just stopped? What if we all just stopped for a moment? What if we all just stopped and took a breath? And what if we all just stopped and tried just for a moment to find some focus, even though distractions are coming in at us all the time? What if we all just stopped just for a moment? God might be able to speak to us perhaps more clearly if we could just stop just for a moment and give ourselves that gift, just for a moment. This story with Mary, Martha, and Jesus is a wonderful story. Mary and Martha invite Jesus to this dinner party, and Martha's back in the kitchen preparing an incredible meal, and Mary sits down at the feet of Jesus, and finally Jesus calls out to Martha and says, Martha, great meal, not doing anything wrong, nothing wrong with it, but there is something greater. There is something even more important. The main thing is for us to sit together and try to find some focus. For us to sit together and try to put some of those distractions aside, to sort of get out of the kitchen. You're not doing anything wrong. You're doing a lot of good things. But I want to invite you to come and to sit with me and to let go of the busyness, to let go of the distractions, to let go of the multitasking, knowing that you can sit with me and I accept you and love you whether you are busy or not. Come and sit down. There's a lot of grace, I think, in that story, and maybe you are like Martha sometimes. Proverbs 4, there's a wonderful passage about distraction. Keep your eyes straight ahead. Ignore all sideshow distractions. All these sideshows over here. Try to keep your eyes straight ahead. Watch your step, and the road will stretch out smooth before you. Keep your eyes off these sideshow distractions. Keep your eyes straight. Go straight ahead and follow God's path. Look neither left nor right. Leave evil in the dust. Straight ahead. Take the destruction or all of the distractions over here and leave them behind. Prayer for distracted people. So many reasons for us to be distracted when we're here on a Sunday morning. Lots of different reasons to be distracted. And yet we are invited to pray. There is this sort of playful prayer for people who are distracted that goes like this. God, please help me to keep my mind on one, a butterfly thing at a time. That's kind of how it is for us. I mean, my goodness, there's so many reasons to be distracted. Some of them really wonderful. And yet we're called to be centered as we come to worship God. Read this week. What consumes your mind controls your life. Think about that for just a second. What consumes your mind controls your life. The Apostle Paul in Romans says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so what's in your mind? What's consuming it? What's filling it? And how is what is in there controlling the way you live? Is it filled with grace? Is it filled with forgiveness? Is it filled with joy and being in community? Whatever is in there controls your life. It's a powerful thing to know that God is in our minds and to know that God hopes that our minds will focus on the main thing. All right, this is the Abbey of Gethsemani. It is a Trappist monastery just outside Bardstown, Kentucky. It's about an hour south of Louisville. Trappists have been in Bardstown or just outside Bardstown since, I think, 1848. It's a long-standing community of brothers. And they follow the rule of St. Benedict, which is to welcome anybody from anywhere at no cost. So, the Abbey of Gethsemani. When I was a 25-year-old seminary student, a buddy of mine and I, over school break, decided that we wanted to go to the Abbey of Gethsemani and check it out because we had heard about this famous Trappist monk and spiritual guy named Thomas Merton. So we headed to the Abbey. We got there on a Monday afternoon. And by the way, there are 3 things that guide the lives of Trappist monks. Prayer, work, silence. Prayer, work, and silence. These monks get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they start praying. 7 times a day they pray. 3:15 all the way to 7:30 they go to bed again, and then they get up again at about 2:30. Every single day they work and they pray and they eat and they hardly ever talk. Well, at the time, not talking was a very difficult thing for me to get a handle on. And so we went to the Abbey on a Monday, lived through Monday night, got to about Tuesday at supper time, and we could not stand it anymore. Too much silence. Too much looking at ourselves in the mirror. Too many things coming in to our hearts and our minds, and so we ran out of the monastery, got into our car, went into Bardstown, grabbed a beer, and drove back to Columbus, Ohio as fast as we could. We would rather have had more distractions than less, and so we created them. See where I'm headed? Sometimes we need to get to an uncomfortable place and ask God to remove the distractions so we can see the truth about who we are and confess our need for Jesus. And to do that sometimes means getting past those distractions. I've now been back to Gethsemani probably 8 different times, and each time it's been better and easier, and it's actually been a really spiritual, enriching kind of thing. But you got to be ready to deal with all of these distractions and then to try to live through them. Hear the monks in their prayer chapel. It's lovely. Hear the monks doing their prayers. They pray for the world 7 times a day because we are all so darn distracted. And they are as in touch with the world as any of us, maybe more. They pray for us when we are all distracted. So we are coming down this path that the writer of Proverbs talked about, and we're being invited to look straight forward because while we are distracted, God is laser focused. God is laser focused on what God is coming to do for us in Jesus. God is not distracted, but rather is hatching a plan that will save us, a plan that will give us life beyond anything we can imagine. So I pray, sisters and brothers, this week that you might find respite from a little bit of the distraction and that you can be reminded again that God is laser focused for us during this season and always. And oh, by the way, put your phone away. Someday, 2.5 hours, you'll survive it. And if you sit and listen or even drive around and listen, you might hear God speaking to you in a new way.